do me a favor and go ahead and drop in the chat if you can hear me okay, because there was some interference backstage that we were trying to work through, which is kind of ironic because this whole entire session is about tech. All right, guys, you know the drill. Go ahead and drop your locations in the comments and let me see where you're tuning in from so I know I am officially live. And for the replay crew, go ahead and put in hashtag replay and we'll circle back with any questions we've got for you. Betsy is not on LinkedIn very often. Well, I guess I just gave who my guest was away. But I am really excited to bring her on today. For the new faces out there, a big warm welcome. I am Tegan Bartos, founder and managing director of Jolt Your Career. I'm all about empowering corporate leaders just like you to advance, own, or pivot in your career. But today, this session, it's not really for job seekers unless you happen to be a corporate trainer or a leader who frequently uses Zoom and wants to improve the Zoom experience. Today, I'm actually shaking things up and I've got an awesome treat for all my fellow coaches. I personally invested in working with my guest today and she was amazing. So I wanted to bring her to all of you because like we hang out on LinkedIn and she hangs out on Facebook. So let me introduce you to someone who has been a game changer in tech in the education space. Okay, so picture this. She's got like 3.5 decades worth of turning tech challenges into opportunities. If you know me, then you know, like, I need this. But that's Betsy. Her vision, it's not just about tech mastery. It is about making tech fun. So if any of you get those like tech anxiety jitters before you host a workshop or webinar or go live and you're like, shit, what is about to happen? Lord, save me. She helps fix that. So she is truly on a mission to turn tech from a foe to a friend, making it dynamic, interactive, and even a whole lot of fun. So please help me welcome the one and only Betsy, and hopefully the mics will work. Welcome.
All right. Welcome. I'm here. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I heard like bits and pieces, Tegan. I heard like, and her mission is to, I was like, my mission. Okay, what's my mission?
So that means I must still be having audio issues.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Nope.
No. Oh, that's not good. Okay.
Well, we might end up having to redo this.
Let's see. So when
Yeah, I can't hear you at all right now, Betsy. We'll see. Oh, you can hear her? Oh, great. How are we going to do this if I can't hear you? Well, I think it might be me. I can hear Tegan perfectly, but not Betsy. Okay. Well, I can't hear. And for some reason, I'm trying to pull it up on my phone just to hear what it sounds like. And it's not pulling up there. So my guess is that this storm is causing a problem. Oh, I can hear myself now. Betsy, I can't hear you. Can you hear? It's this 30-second lag in the live. So I still haven't heard you speak yet. The joys of technology, the irony of this. Dan says it's most likely an audio problem, but she was just speaking before and her audio is fine.
Try, this is my built-in mic. That's my built-in mic. Okay. Demetra now says she can't hear me. Can you hear me now? And I see Dan is there. Make sure the mic is properly designated. We were.
There's like a 30-second lag in between us talking like here and what they actually hear because of just how the live stream works. So why don't we go ahead and just start right over now that we've got the volume under control. And even though you're on the screen, but other people couldn't hear me. Basically, what I was saying about Betsy is, gosh, she has been in the technology space forever. She started off at a Fortune 500 company before launching her own firm. Her whole entire mission is to make tech fun, to make tech less scary for everyday users like me and you. And so I personally invested in working with her to take my client experience to the next level on Zoom. And I took a bet and asked her if she would join us so you can all learn from her too. So I am going to unmute her, mute me. Hopefully that won't cause the problem. She can introduce herself and then we can kind of like dive in and see if Restream wants to play nice today.
Sandbox today. Hi, everyone. Hi. Let's see. I'm unmuted. All right, how are we doing? I could now hear Tegan, so that was beautiful. I've been in the world of tech. Hi, everyone. I'm Betsy Sabatini Coin. Many of you know me as Betsy Sabatini. I have been in the world of tech for about 36 years, so it's all that I have ever done, and I love it. I really do. I not only do troubleshooting and, tech types of repair, but I mostly specialize in showing you, acclimating you how to have tech play nice. So sometimes it is something like this where hopefully, can you give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me? All right. Woo! Yay. Sometimes it's something technical like this, but for the most part, I meet many of you business professionals out there in different industries who are trying to get the tech to work for you so that you can do your genius wherever it is, whether it's in person or it's online. And in the last 3 years, almost 4 years, when the world shut down abruptly in 2020, my expertise was brought to many industries whose businesses were shut down abruptly. The world shut down, and as I say, my world opened up. And I took my Zoom expertise. I am a Zoom expert. I'm self-employed, so anything that I know about Zoom, I have learned by researching it and troubleshooting it and working in it every day. And I have networked with many other experts as well who produce shows. I'd love to know that in the comments, how you use Zoom for business. And I met Tegan in one of our business groups, one that I value highly, related to business and Kajabi and using other types of platforms. And she needed Zoom to work for her so that her event and presentation was at its very best. And she was trying to get the features to work, and there were some little glitches in there. And that's usually when I'm brought in. I can strategize with you because my background is in listening to you, learning what your industry is, what your roles are, and then helping you to strategize. A lot of people tell me, I know Zoom, Betsy. I can just click the link and show up. So what is it? What's so special about it? And I open up that world for you to realize that Zoom now is more than a video conferencing tool. It's a business communication tool. And if you haven't gotten on board, I want to take you there now on that trip to see how many new features there are. It's really been updating quite a bit over the last few months. So I guess that tells you a little bit about me and where you find me and what I do. And I'm so happy to be here. And yes, I was very vulnerable with Tegan. I said, I don't show up on LinkedIn that often. I should. And I don't know. I think that's where maybe meeting her, I'm like, she's going to get me on here more. So thank you so much for inviting me in as your guest, Tegan. I really appreciate it. Very grateful.
Yes, I am so excited to have you here today. There's lots of people tuning in. And so let's kind of just dive. Well, first, I suppose, let me even though we're running behind, let me welcome some people. All right, so we've got Leslie Reed, welcome. Demetria, welcome. Dan Roth, hello. Mike Knowles, hello. We've got Molly, hello, hello, hello. And other people who are tuning in but not commenting. And that's okay. Go ahead and multitask. But I will tell you this, you are going to want a pen and paper, or you're going to have to catch this on replay, because all of the stuff she's about to share with us today, I have on a Post-it note, like before I do my sessions, to not forget. And it has been an absolute game changer in the way that I interact with my clients, because I'm all virtual. So let me go ahead and unmute Betsy so she can share. So what are you going to tell us today?
Beautiful. First of all, I'm laughing at Dan Roth. He says Betsy looks like she is from New York. What gave it away, Dan? I want to know. That was the case prior to 4 months ago. I am no longer in New York. There you go. I'm no longer in New York. Now you get to guess where I am. So yes, my business primarily was in the New York, New Jersey metropolitan area for about 35 of those years, of those 36 years. So where I want to start with you all today is I don't know where you all are. I know some of the names that were introduced by Tegan, and I know some of you and how you're using Zoom. But if you could engage with me in the comments, I would love that, to know where you're at. What do you have? Do you have a free Zoom account? Do you have a paid Zoom account? Are you in it every day? Is it something that you're in once a month? Do you do the meeting? Do you do the webinar? So, so as I'm giving you some of my my tips, I'd love to know how you're using it as well. I first and foremost tell everyone that when it comes to your Zoom account, it's so important that you get to know your settings. And your settings are located in your account on the web. So you literally are going to log into your account at Zoom's website, and you're going to take a look. And I stay to the end here. I've got a free Zoom settings checklist, which lays it all out for you. You can grab one of those from me before we're done today, and it really gives you that. Gee, did I hit everything I needed? You know, am I going to need a co-host with me? Do I want to run a poll? I want to engage with my audience. I heard this in the intro, Tegan, about being dynamic. I am a real proponent for you all in learning how to be dynamic this way. I'm here, you're there, we are online, and we're not in person. And how can I engage with you? And rather than keep talking, I want to be able to ask you to give me comments in the chat. That's one way, and you may have heard that a lot. I've already done that with you here, and we're not even in Zoom. But Zoom has a built-in feature called polls and quizzes, and you can literally set these up ahead of time, months ahead of time. And in your poll, you can have an icebreaker, beautiful. So you can set it up, your audience enters in, you can have the poll running as they enter your Zoom room. And then it's right on their screen. They answer it, and you in real time can see what the answers are, what the percentages are. It can be anonymous or not, so you can see who's answering. And then from those results, you can share that back into your meeting and make a conversation of it and say, I see from a majority of you here that you're using a Mac computer versus a Windows computer. That's usually what I ask. and you can make it part of your conversation. Better yet, one of the new engagement tools is using breakout rooms. Now, breakout rooms are not new. I'd love to know in the comments if you've used Zoom with breakout rooms before. You can just give me a yes, breakout rooms, or no breakout rooms, and I can see some of the comments here. Breakout rooms is what sets Zoom apart from the rest, in my opinion. Many people out there who hire me for helping them to show up professionally and feel comfortable online, oftentimes might use another platform, and that's fine. Like I said, I don't work for Zoom. I work for myself, but I have used them all, and Zoom to me is the most user friendly. It also has these breakout rooms, and what a breakout room is a place that you can take your main meeting room. Like right now, we're all here together in Tegan's room, let's say. And if I wanted to ask you all a question about maybe your niche, like your niche, I might want to separate you out into separate rooms. Like picture we were in a physical room together and we had all of these separate rooms on either side, and those rooms had doors. And then I could break you up into smaller discussion groups and meet in those other rooms. Zoom has this feature where you go into these other rooms. You cannot hear anybody in the other rooms. And then you can have your conversation, and then the host can bring you back into the main room. So imagine you put together those two features I just mentioned, deliver a poll as your audience enters your Zoom meeting, ask them the question, and then based on their answer, Zoom has a feature which lets you break them out into discussion groups based on their answers. Beautiful. So again, I like to ask what device you're all using. When people come to my meetings, if you're not part of my membership and I don't know you on a regular basis, if you're coming to me like today, I'm just meeting you here. I don't have breakout rooms in here, so I would have to ask you the question and you'd have to tell me in the comments, and then I might have to make note of it and such. In Zoom, you can literally just put the poll together. Once they answer it and the poll is closed, and I click a button, and then everybody gets sent to a room based on their answer. And then you can have a discussion, and then I can bring it all back and discuss that. So it really does make it quite dynamic in that people stay motivated as well, because they don't hear you talking over and over and trying to figure out how they're going to get their comments in. So again, the first place to start is in your settings, because all these things that I'm talking about for you today, and you're like, oh my gosh, I've never used that before. I can see yes to breakout rooms, no to breakout rooms. And if you haven't used it yet and you want to use these features, don't just show up in your Zoom room, because if the setting was off, you won't have access to it. And so that's what I did with Tegan. We went down from top to bottom, looking at all of her settings and discussing what she wanted to have happen with her audience online. Yep. So you want me to keep going?
Okay, let me switch it. Yes, I went through all of the settings. And you know what's crazy is we went through all those darn settings. Sometimes the closed captions will work because I want to remain accessible for some of my clients who need the closed captions. And sometimes they won't. And so some of the times the issues that we find as coaches or trainers and things like that are really nuanced. And so having somebody like Betsy who can troubleshoot and then figure it out, because it's a little overwhelming behind the scenes. And so, all right. So the first step is updating your settings, and there's a lot. So how do you recommend going through them? You know, like what comes next in all of this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, before we finish today, make sure you grab my free Zoom settings checklist. It's going to help you get to a point where you know what you want to know. I always say it's hard, isn't it, when you don't know what you don't know? I mean, it's like, well, Betsy, how would I even know to ask you that about breakout rooms? I didn't even know they existed. So how would I even know to turn them on? So the first step is in getting the list, looking through and deciphering what you're going to turn on and turn off. And I can certainly be your go-to for questions on that. Many people do. And as you go through them, you're going to notice some settings don't apply to you at all. I'll give you an example. For those of you out there that have free Zoom accounts, you can literally do your online, you can do it 40 minutes at a time with a free Zoom account. Works perfectly fine. You get closed captions, you can provide a transcript. There are still many features. Can't do polls. So if you have a free Zoom account, you can't do polls, but you can do many of the features. And when you're working through the settings, you're going to notice that there's another setting, which I love, called the waiting room. And when you get to that point in determining, okay, which of these settings are for me and which aren't, you may at that point decide, you know what, I'm going to invest in maybe a month, maybe the month that my launch is coming up, maybe that's January, and I'm going to invest in a month of Zoom and I'm going to try it out. And if you do, as a paid Zoom owner of a paid Zoom account, you have the ability to put video in your waiting room. And so what is a waiting room? Well, and let me know in the comments too, as a participant, if you've experienced this, where you've clicked on the Zoom link, you go to show up, and a message appears. And it either says, the host has been notified that you are here, and we'll let you in shortly. And sometimes you just see the Zoom logo. Sometimes you see their logo. Sometimes you see a message from your host. And sometimes you see a video. That means you are in the waiting room. It means that you've clicked the link, you have connected with Zoom, but you're not quite in the room yet. And I want you to think about if we were all meeting in person and we had a physical location, and I am in the conference room teaching area, let's say, and you're arriving at the front door of the building, and in our lobby, let's say, or there was some sort of seating area, that's what we're simulating inside Zoom. And literally, the people who come to your events can be greeted with some sort of messaging. Think about it. You've got a captive audience, and they've come to your event, and now they're getting ready to see you. So this could be the purpose of a waiting room messaging, could either be, this is what, as a reminder, how I'd like you to be prepared for today. So if they're coming to you for a class or a cohort, maybe your members. If it's a brand new cold audience and they're just getting there to meet you for the first time, greet them with a video, possibly a promotional video of who you are and what your strengths are and what services you have and maybe what your upcoming events are in a video. And they can just sit there and watch it, a minute and a half video and learn about you prior to even entering the room. Maybe you're having a summit and you have a staff of other people who are speaking, and you would like to introduce the speakers. So you can do that in a video. You could do this with photos, but I always say video is the way to go. I mean, video will keep their attention, and it will loop. So the video in the waiting room will loop around, and they'll watch it again. I do a lot of gamification as well with my clients. And what gamification is a way of incorporating a game of some kind, a puzzle, a game, trivia. Maybe it's bingo, maybe it's a form of the game show Jeopardy. We do password, we do tic-tac-toe. These are all different ways of incorporating your content into a game format, and it keeps them motivated and involved. And oftentimes, if you incorporate teams with that, teams of people, where the first team to complete the puzzle, let's say, wins a prize, and then you have a little bit of competition, giving them that motivation. So what I've done is I've taken the game, the trivia questions, and I put those in a video inside my waiting room, so that when they're sitting there waiting, they're reading the question and they're thinking, okay, what would the answer be? And it keeps them interested in waiting to meet you.
I don't know how many other coaches who are tuning in watching this, or trainers who are tuning in watching this, are like, I didn't even know that was possible. All right. So for those of you just tuning in, because I see a couple of fresh faces, We had some tech issues in the beginning. So Betsy is going to have, do you want to put it in the comments? Is going to drop her, her checklist of all the things that you want to do to set your meeting up. But the first thing she had talked about is setting up or looking at your settings, because once you set your meeting up, once you're already in it, those settings are already locked in. So she's going to give us a checklist of all the settings that you want to go through to make sure everything is how you want it, to make sure that those closed captions are available. So that way you remain accessible, to make your sessions more interactive by setting up polls or quizzes for during your session, in addition to having a video in the waiting room. So that way, while you've got their attention, you can have some type of call to action or reassure them or things like that. So there's lots of ways with Zoom that we can really take our client experience up to the next notch. So I know that, oops, here we go. I know that we are coming up on time because, tech issues. So Betsy, what is your recommendation for coaches who are maybe just starting off doing group Zoom coaching sessions, webinar type of things? Not necessarily like a Zoom webinar, but just like a group of people, like a coaching webinar, like a 3-day coaching challenge or something like that. In addition to having this setting set up, you had briefly touched on strategy. So what are some things that coaches should keep top of mind when it comes to thinking about their Zoom strategy so they can provide a better experience to their clients or potential clients?
Yeah. Where I would start first is your wish list. So don't even think Zoom, just think up the event. Think, what is your wish list? I've had people say to me, you know what I really want, Betsy? I want to be able to have so-and-so and me be the speakers, and I want only us to be on camera, and I want you to describe what your ideal event is. And whether that means I want to be able to have it 3 days in a row. I want my cohort to be able to share their information. Are they sharing their screens? Do they have something of their content that they need to take turns sharing? Do they have an agenda? Do they need to be on audio and video? So put all of these down in your wish list, because I hear many people say, I'm going to put together a webinar. And one of the first things I ask is, keep in mind, a webinar to Zoom is different than a meeting to Zoom. A Zoom webinar is where everyone is off camera and you are off mic, and only your speakers are showing up. So your speaker and you're kind of like we're doing today. It's very much like this, a Zoom webinar, as opposed to a Zoom meeting where that is simulating where you are sitting around a table. Picture we were all in the room together, all of us today, all around a table, able to see one another, able to share what maybe we've learned or what we want to learn, or what our agenda or status is, or ask our questions. And that would be a Zoom meeting. And so once you've decided, are you landing in the meeting or the webinar, and then start coming up with your ideal wish list. And as you pinpoint the things you want to have happen, like one of the things is, if you're like, yes, I've got to do games. Games is where it's at. I want to be able to incorporate that. And so as part of your game strategy, not only putting together the game, but you'll know that you'll need to share that with your audience. So how are you going to share that? You can share it in the form of a link, which you put in the chat like we've done today. So it's very similar to here. You could make up a QR code that shows up on the screen that people scan with their phones, and then they're playing it wherever they are in the world. And so as part of your wish list, you're also going to have a column of what your materials are and what you need. And then finally, what feature is needed. So right away, I know you need the share screen capability inside Zoom in order to share what they're seeing. You need the chat available to everyone. Is it going to be public? Zoom has a new feature in the chat where you can actually change the color of the fonts. You can use emojis. You can So here today, as I look over there, there are some emojis showing up in the chat here. And if I were to run a game, I could actually use the chat in a way for you to kind of ring in, like give me a heart emoji in the chat when I say go. And the first heart I see is the first person I'll pick on. So if you want the mechanics to run for your event, you want to make sure that the settings match up with them. And it's really where most of the questions come back to me, where they're like, I don't know, Betsy, Zoom's not working for me. And it's like, well, let's go take a look in your settings and see what the culprit is. And is it that it was off? And it's like, sometimes you like, I just looked over there and it could be that one of the settings was off. So once you come up with your wish list, I'd love to hear back from you here. Return back here. This replay will be hanging here, right, Tegan? And you can put in your details of what your event is, and I'll answer you on that.
All right. Well, I don't know about everybody else tuning in, but I just have more questions. Unfortunately, we are out of time. But I am let me click on here. All right. Restream allowed me to share this checklist on Facebook and YouTube, but not on LinkedIn. So everybody hanging out on LinkedIn, I will be putting that in the comments as soon as we are off this stream. But there it is there. I am really excited, Betsy, that you were able to come on today. Everybody is going to be, like, well, what are they? What do we need to check? And then from there, well, based on our strategy, how do we implement this now? So I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge today, but we might have to have you come back on to, take us to the next one, or you can go ahead and work with Betsy on a one-on-one, or even join her masterclass, because she's got a membership program, a monthly membership program where you get access to her weekly, which is really cool. So for everyone tuning in, make sure you go ahead and connect with Betsy on LinkedIn. She doesn't hang out here very often, but you can definitely catch her on Facebook. And if you're looking to take your virtual events to the next level, Master Tech Club has been an awesome resource for me. It gives you the time to dive way deeper. In 30 minutes, we can't possibly cover Zoom and video strategy from beginning to end, but we've got a little taste of some of the things that we need to think about in the Zoom settings to make our engagement, to make our workshops more engaging. So Betsy, once again, massive thank you for joining us today. To all of our listeners, tech issues happen. This session is proof that you can get past it and you can stay focused and get the information out there that you want to the people that you are serving on that day. So until next time, keep pushing through all those tech issues. And Betsy, what would be your signing off?
Yes, I would just say for those of you who are watching live or watching now back on the replay, get your settings checklist that I've provided here in front of you and go down through them, and they're pretty self-explanatory. You're going to realize that there are things there that you realize, like, oh, okay. If you hit a vocabulary or term that you don't know what it is, just return back here and ask the question. And I'll and get me involved in LinkedIn, because I don't show up here that often. But once you go through them and you notice, that there's settings for co-hosts, and if those are off, your virtual background, all these things, you want to design your event for you. So this is the starting point for that. Just beforehand, that's why it's called that. Set yourself up for success beforehand. So if you showed up here today, it's because you're thinking about maybe an event that's coming up, and this is the place to get started. And I would love to come back and do the next step. I would love to do that. Now that we have all the audio and video set up, Tegan, we can do that.
All right, everybody. Well, you heard it. If you once you download it, once you start playing in this, leave additional comments and she will return to LinkedIn and help you use it. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. do not hesitate to reach out to Betsy. She is a wealth of knowledge. Definitely join her Facebook group because she's always dropping gems. And without further ado, we will see you next time.